what we're going to do on the Florida economy. Talk to me a little bit about now where Florida fits into all this.
So Florida, very strong. I've recently been in Texas as well, and since the hurricanes. And what I tell most folks when they think about, well, things are done and destroyed, and the Houston economy is done and South Florida economy is done, I say, wait a minute, folks. Have any of you been down there? They're up for business. I've been down in Corpus Christi. The hotels are open. The plants and trees have leaves on them. You can rent a car. You can go in and out of the airport. Places like Texas and Florida, your top 5 economies in the country, can take a punch and get back up real quickly.
I didn't realize it, but my family from Atlanta was thinking about coming down for the holiday season this year, and they asked me, Jim, do you think we'll be able to get a hotel, or are the emergency workers still using all the rooms?
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that
I couldn't believe
insane? Yeah, it's nuts. And in fact, a lot of people don't realize Atlanta got hit harder by Irma than Tampa, Florida did. So my good buddy, we both know, Todd Jones or whatever, I was actually down with Todd when it made its turn and they thought it was going to go into Tampa, so we scurried back up to Atlanta, and we got hit harder in Atlanta with the wind and all. People forget, Harvey and Irma were 2 very different storms. And in Irma, you got more wind damage, which, believe it or not, the insurers settle that stuff quicker than they do the flood.
It's easier to identify and take care of.
Yeah, where Houston was a flood event, Houston may be another year before we really get the insurance settlement. So one was a flood event that has a whole different set of problems. As you guys know, you've had all of them: wind, flood and wind, whatever kind of combinations and permutations. You've had them all, right?
We have, and I'm still waiting for the really big inundation of water. We really haven't had the big water event yet. I just jinxed us.
Well, we're just making Florida more liquid. The real estate's more liquid.
Oh, we're bringing in what the future's going to look like just that much quicker. Now, Casey, let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing in technology, the impact technology could have on real estate. We were talking right before we went on the air about your commute. You live in Atlanta. You go back and forth between Alabama and Atlanta. You do it late at night. And you were telling me about one of the freakiest things I've ever heard of in my life. Can you kind of tell our listening audience a little bit about that?
You mean there's things that happen that are a little freaky between Alabama and Georgia late at night on the interstate? I can't believe that.
Yeah, not only that, it ain't happening in Florida yet, or maybe it is and I just don't know about it.
Yeah, so it's really fascinating. So I love what's happening in the technology and what's going on, because when our economy is in disruption, that's when we grow. That's when there's change. When things, actually
well, they're
happen.
Forced to.
Yeah,
they're forced to.
They have to. So change and disruption is good, not always bad. But what I observed was, we're all kind of aware that there's going to be driverless cars, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is going to be probably the first driverless car-enabled city within a year. Well, a lot of people are saying, well, we'll come to trucks and container ships and trains and everything else. So I'm driving back, and I've studied some of the stuff from some of the retailers. There's one big retailer, they may not want to be identified, but they're already using and testing driverless trucks. So I'm driving across I-20 coming back to Atlanta late at night, and here's a convoy of 5 trucks that look like Kit the Car from the TV series with the aquatic car.
Sure.
And so there's lights and computers going on inside the cabs of the truck, but there's no truck driver. Couldn't
not like a small person in the front there.
No, so I'm slowing down, accelerating, checking each truck out, but there's a car, kind of like a wide load, chaperoning the front and back. Mm-hmm. And so I'm studying this. I get my phone. I said, man, I got to video this, right? So I'm videotaping it. Within about 2 minutes, an Alabama state trooper is on me and pulls me over. And what I was doing was I was filming a driverless truck convoy that now regularly move across each evening the horizontal interstate system in our country. We are already deploying and using, and many big retailers already have driverless trucks that they're using, and they're chaperoned. And so we had some fun, and once I explained I was just a bleep economist academic that thought this was a cool thing, they decided I wasn't a terrorist or trying to be like Fast and Furious and hijack the convoy.
Yeah, but it still brings up another point, and that's people do those jobs. What are people going to start doing? These are middle-class jobs. Where are the middle-class people going to work?
So you raise a really important point. So if you look at the macro indicators, the labor participation rate, right? We cannot get it above 63% with any meaningfulness. You look at the unemployment rate. Well, the government makes up the first number, the U3 number, and says we're at 4.1 or whatever. But the real one, the U6, is still above 7, the 7 to 8 range. And we have this, we still have labor capacity. Why aren't we seeing the labor pressures, the income pressures? What's going on? And my theory of what's going on in the economy is every aspect of our economy is trying to eradicate one thing: labor. benefits, reliability, all the things. Whether you look at it, when's the last time you dealt with a parking attendant at a parking garage? Right?
I just noticed that the other day that the lady that I used to say puedo tener un recibo por favor is no longer there.
Yeah. Look at the grocery store. How often do you check out your own groceries?
Well,
And there's one line that's open.
Last time I was at the grocery store, I had to admit I stood at the checkout counter for 30 seconds till the lady said, "Sir, you still have to sign." I go, "Well, ma'am, I don't go to Publix that often." They all laughed.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the fast food industry. They're pivoting to automated kiosks.
I couldn't believe it. I went into McDonald's and you can order without getting in line.
Yeah. Look at the hotels, automated app check-ins, whether you're at Marriott or
You never
Hyatt.
have to see a person.
I just was in Boston and recently in Chicago, and everything I did was at the automated kiosk. I did it in the Uber ride. I had the key printing. They only had one person at the whole registration desk instead of the normal 4, 5, 6 waiting for the rush hour. So we're about eradicating the labor component because one, the healthcare costs are prohibitive and nobody can afford that. And number two, just the overall component of labor. So you're typically the largest component that companies incur. And if we can't get the tax cuts done or we can't get reform and all these other issues, business is pretty innovative. They'll say, we'll find another solution. We'll finally use technology to solve these problems. And so the question is, what do we do? And so some services and some labor skills, probably it's a good thing we have a technology solution. So truck driving, take for example, the average age of a truck driver is between 56 and 58. Their lifespan is 63. They're all dead in 5 to 7 years. We need a technology solution. We need drivers.
Sure, they're going to love that one.
I mean, we put all of the burdens on truck drivers, the new hours of work service rule. They all have to comply with electronic driverless logs by December 19th, the week before Christmas, when all the elves have to leave the North Pole of Amazon. And
that ought to be real efficient.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. So some industries we truly do need the technological solutions, but where do we replace the middle class? What is the college student? What is the high school student that enter into the labor force to make money, to pay for tuition, and to start their first career out? What do they do?
Well, I'll bet you have an answer, and that's why we're going to take a break right now. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and have a long segment again. And Casey's going to give us what his take is on where the middle class is going to have their jobs, where they're going to come from, and how they're going to do that. So we'll have great information you're going to want to put to use today. Make sure you stay with us. Wanda, rock me, girl.